number 1, this tool is for adults only. If you're letting kids work with this, we definitely want to think about only letting mature, older kids work with this under strict supervision. Make sure you're there at all times. Be extremely careful. Additionally, I would not recommend handling this tool if you're thinking about, having fun, having a craft night, drinking while you're working. This is something that we want to be really careful with. So when I say adults only, I mean even for adults, also act like an adult. Tip number 2, tie your hair back before you get started. If you have long hair like mine, this is something that can easily hang over your project when you're leaning forward, when you're looking at that fine detail. So just take a minute, prep yourself, prep your space. The same goes not just for your hair, but if you have big, loose sleeves, just make sure that you don't have anything that can hang in the line of fire of that wood burning tool. Tip number 3, leave your wood burning tool unplugged at all times unless you're working with it. So this is going to heat up. This is going to be something that can, burn surfaces, burn us. So if we're not actively working with it, leave it unplugged. If you're stepping away to run to the restroom, to grab a drink, to answer the phone, unplug it. Don't think to yourself, oh, I'll be right back, it'll be fine. No, just unplug it. It's just so much safer that way. You have to think about things that are unpredictable, like if you have pets, and maybe something could bump it. Things just happen by mistake. The AC turns on and things shift. So be prepared for the unknown. And in that regard, just leave it unplugged before you use it. Tip number 4, I'm working on this nice big wood table. I would recommend that you work on a nice, sturdy, flat surface as well. I would never recommend pillows, comfy couches or cushions or fabric or things that are fluffy. I wouldn't recommend working on the floor if you have carpet. Definitely think about a surface that's sturdy, that's not going to bend, that's not going to move, and that's also impervious to that heat. So even plastic tables, like folding tables, I would not recommend working on those. Tip number 5, we want to hold our wood burning tool like a pen. So I'm going to hold it just like a pen, like so. And what we don't want to do, tip number 6, is touch any of the metal. All of this metal is completely off limits. We're only holding it like a pen along the plastic portion. If you have any concerns, if you're worried about accidentally touching any of the metal, you can work with work gloves, but just know that you won't have as good of a grip. You might not be able to work on that fine detail quite as easily. Let's talk about how to change these tips. So whenever we're changing tips, we want to make sure that this is completely cool. So if you're working with this tool and then you want to change the tip, you're going to need to unplug it, let it cool down completely, then you can change the tip. You might need a wrench to loosen them and tighten them. You always want to make sure that your tip is very firmly in place, that it's not loose at all before you start burning with it. As the metal heats up, that metal starts to expand, that metal starts to move. So if there's any looseness in the tip while you're working with it, that metal can bend, and that can mean that you might not be able to get the tip off at all later. You might not be able to get other tips on there. If you try to change the tips while the wood burning tool is hot, you might bend and damage the entire piece or the tip itself. Now there are a lot of different tips. This is the most standard tip right here, and this is the one that I work with 99% of the time, but there's so many different shading, textures, different shapes that you can create with lots of different tools, so that is something that you might want to try out. Tip number 8, don't use a stand. Now I know this sounds counterintuitive. Why does the stand even come with your wood burning tool? Well, perhaps it would be good, under some circumstances. I know some people like it, but my concern with a wood burning tool is that they're too lightweight, they're too flimsy, it's too easy to knock them over. So I have my wood burning tool flat on this table, but let's imagine that I had it propped up with that stand. If I bump it at all because it's propped up, there can be so much give, so much flight to this. It can move so much farther. So that can make it really unpredictable. If you bump it, if anything touches it, it could just go flying, and it can go flying in a place that you don't mean for it to. When it's flat on a table like this, even if you bump it, there's going to be a lot less movement. It stays a lot safer. Those stands, unless you have one that is wildly sturdy and extremely weighted, I would not use it. Tip number 9 for our safety tips for this wood burning tool is don't leave cords hanging. So right now I have my cord hanging down. It's down at my feet. So if I'm going to leave even for a second, I want to go ahead and unplug this. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up right now. And I'm going to put this in the center of the table. There's no cords hanging. I don't have to worry about anything brushing it, anything pulling it down. If I step away for a minute, it's really easy to just accidentally lock your foot in the cord and send that tool flying. So now with it being completely unplugged on the table, I don't have to worry about pulling on those cords. I hope you are feeling really safe and comfortable working with your wood burning tool. They're so much fun. You can make so many versatile projects with them. For example, if you want to make wood burning recipe boards, check out this video right here. You can also make wood burning coasters, which we'll link below. My name is Brittany Bly. This is Pop Shop America, and happy crafting.